I wanted to stress at the beginning that we are in the very early stages of this investigation. There is some information that we do not know yet and some we are not prepared to release at this point, but I do want to provide some preliminary information about the fatal officer-involved shooting that occurred this afternoon in Lexington. What we do know is that about 1:40 this afternoon, Lexington police received a 911 call from a resident of Mason Street reporting that his son had injured himself with a knife and was in the home, asking the police to come to the house. Lexington police arrived on the scene first. They were followed shortly thereafter by members of the Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council, often referred to as NEMLEC, who were in Lexington for some Patriots Day events and responded to a call that had gone out over the radio. When the police first arrived, they escorted 2 residents of the home from that house, leaving the 3rd resident, a 26-year-old male, inside the home alone. Shortly after the police had moved those other residents from the home and were setting up outside on the street, that 26-year-old man ran from the home in possession of a large kitchen knife and advanced on the officers. 2 attempts were made to use less lethal force. They were not effective. The man continued to advance and was fatally shot by a Wilmington police officer assigned to NEMLEC. The 26-year-old man died of his injuries on scene. The Wilmington officer who had fired that shot was transported to an area hospital as a precaution. That is essentially where we are right now. As many of you know, our process in these cases is since 2018, is that we will request, once we have completed the gathering of all of the evidence, we will eventually be requesting an inquest from the court. That is a judicial proceeding conducted for the purpose of finding the facts and circumstances surrounding the death and having the judge make a determination as to whether any criminal conduct has occurred. At the conclusion of that inquest process, which the family of the deceased, as well as the officer and their attorneys, are permitted to attend, all records, photos, audio recordings, everything that has been presented in court by statute will be disclosed to the public. We are not, because the family has not finished making notifications, releasing the name of the deceased at this point. And I would say that the family has asked me to convey that they might be allowed to grieve in private over the next few days. So I'm happy to take a few questions with those limitations of how early we are in the investigation.
You mentioned the Wilmington officer was transported. Was that officer cut by the knife, or were those injuries sustained in a different way?
I believe he was taken as a precaution. I believe he is either has been or will shortly be released from the hospital.
Did you have any interaction, your officers, with this person? You mentioned that he was in the house and then ran out. Was there a discussion, any kind of conversation, any?
That's part of the investigation right now. To make an assessment of what happened out there.
Are you able to say why he ran out of the house?
We do not know that.
You said these officers were in town from NEMLEC for the
Yes.
Patriots Day. Were they here doing details? Were they involved in some of the events and they just responded to a call that they got?
They happened to be here. They would have been called in any event because the situation was somebody who was armed, barricaded inside a house. That would be protocol. So a call would have been made.
It sounds like this person may have, I know this is all under investigation, but they harmed themselves, maybe perhaps some sort of mental health call. What would you say to family members, parents who may encounter a similar situation in the end, don't want an outcome like this? What should a parent or family member do if something like this arises, where they may have harmed themselves?
Well, in this case, the family had made a determination, as I understand it, that the medical attention was needed. So they had made that call for medical attention. The police, as would be their practice, would try to separate anyone else to prevent anything further happening. That's what they had done. They set up a perimeter outside. It would be their practice at that point to just wait for the person to come out. You know, in the terrible circumstances of today, he suddenly rushed the officers, still clutching the knife.
Do we know if Lexington police have been to this house for any kind of similar call in the past?
The address was known to the police, yes. Yes. Thank you.